Okay, without further ado, let's jump right into it. I'm Sebastian One, the almost naked CEO, your intention strategist. Get it right, get it done, to dream big and make it happen. But let's talk about what does it take to get it right and get it done, to dream big, to make it happen when you're living in self doubt, when you don't love yourself. And I start with that because I'm actually kind of on that journey right now, where after being a very direct person, confident person almost all my life, something happened in my life and I went into a shell. I started hiding. I started people pleasing. I started being somebody I'm not, living in fear and always doubting myself, always putting myself down, telling myself that I'm not good enough. But this isn't about me, this is about our guest. We are talking about the power of self love. We're talking about why do we stop loving ourselves? What does it take to love yourself? And more. So, let me really quickly introduce you to our guest with the promo video that we have. And this portion of the video is pre recorded.
Hi, I'm Hara Allison, and I'm a photographer, podcast host, and a magazine publisher, and you're watching Unleashed Leaders of Change. Hi, I'm Hara Allison, and I am almost 55 years old, and I have found self-love for myself a number of years ago and wanted to share that with the world. And through my photography and my podcast, and now a magazine that's coming, that's how I show the beauty that's in the world. Um, when I was 7 years old, I was sexually assaulted, and that that the fact that my mother did nothing about it, even after I told her, kind of led my whole life a feeling of, boy, I just don't matter. And I had a lot of relationships that proved that to me until I realized that I was important, that I was as precious as my own children were, that I was responsible for making me feel beautiful and loved, and it didn't have to come from an outside source. And that really changed my life, taking responsibility for things I had done, things I wished I had done different, and just really getting to learn to love myself really changed my life.
So,
And another thing is my mother passed away when I was 18. And so there was a
yeah,
lifetime of no resolution. Well,
but it's
what I have learned though, and what I want to share with the world, and the reason I have a podcast of my own, and the reason I want to do this magazine is that I no longer have to be a victim of that story. That's my goal in life, is that I share stories with from people who have suffered through traumatic instances, but that are on the other side and are no longer victims. And so my goal is that everybody knows that they don't have to live with that story, that it is just a story now. Hi, I'm Hara Allison. I'm a photographer, podcast host, and magazine publisher, and you're watching Dream Maniac TV.
you know what to do. And with that, we begin. Hera, you and I shared this story in very unique way. I have my own story, you have yours, but we share this story. And when you were sharing what happened to you, I was just thinking, geez, 7 years, 7 years, like how do we have such a similar story? But growing up, that wasn't as you were a child, you still had a great childhood. Besides, what happened. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what was your childhood like before we go into your career right now or anything else,
Oh,
what
sure.
was before 7 years old, what was Hera like?
Well, um, I am the youngest of six kids with a span of only 9 years between us. And so it was a bit of a chaotic house, actually. My parents were divorced when I was one, and my dad was the third father of those six kids. So it was a bit of chaos. Um, but I did feel loved and special. And, my dad always made a point to make me feel special, which was really great, and I was very close with the sister just older than me. And I think it was a typical life. We did struggle a little bit with money. We had powdered milk and reduced school lunches, but I don't think it was no more tragic than anybody else's. It was pretty middle class, I think.
Right. So just like any other, 7-year-old, you were living in your own world, didn't know much about life and everything. And unfortunately, something happens. I think which is the part we kind of shared together in a very weird way. So you were only 7 and you were assaulted. Do you mind? Are you okay sharing something about that?
Of course, of course. Um, so we were not rich, and there was 3 girls and 3 boys in terms of siblings. And for some reason, my sister, who was only 14, was allowed her 16-year-old boyfriend slept over. And we were not rich, so we shared a bed. It sounds like anyway. So he was touching me. The boyfriend was touching me, and the the hard part for me for my life was I carried so much shame because I didn't jump up right away. My body responded. I think the little girl in me that was the youngest of 6 liked the attention as well, until I finally jumped up and got out of bed, and then told my mother, and she didn't do anything from what I recall. I have since tried to think about maybe she did something and I just don't know, but the feeling that nothing was done because the boy was still allowed to come over set me on this path of feeling like I just don't matter, and I'm only worth what my body can provide. That really did set into my mind because I had a child's mind.
I actually can so relate to that, and in a different perspective, but I can relate to that. And guys, I know you're watching. I've seen all your comments. I will acknowledge you all in a second. Uh, just this topic is so touchy and so kind of difficult to talk about, so I'm going to focus on that. I relate to that, Sarah. Sorry, Hera, in a way as well. That just at 7, same thing happened to me. So I understand. You're too young to know what's happening.
Yes.
It's not about not responding, it's not about not understanding what's going on, and you don't know how to respond because you just have no clue what that means.
Right.
And I know that because I was there, and I also understand sort of not getting the right support. When you said the boy was still coming back, I know that so personally. Having such people come back in your life again and again, you have to witness again. You're already so young and so confused, like what's going on, and then you have to see that person again, not understanding what's right, what's not. And you said you didn't get the kind of support. I understand you're saying it's hard to remember because there are things I can't be so sure of.
Mm-hmm.
We were 7. 7 is nothing. We barely remember anything, so it's hard even. And how human brain works is sometimes we suppress the trauma without even realizing it. So it's hard to kind of go back into that because it is a hard it is a difficult thing to process. Did you reach out to your parents when that was happening? Did you explain what's going on? Why do you feel that you didn't get the support that a 7-year-old should have gotten?
I told my mom that night, and I don't remember what happened, but I know I felt like nothing happened, and my dad wasn't living with us at the time, and I don't think my dad ever knew. And this is all I feel like in my head, but I felt like a burden if I was causing a ruckus because my mom was single with 6 children, trying to make it all work. Of course, the boyfriend could sleep over because that would take care of the sister that was nagging her to let her. I mean, as a woman with 2 children, grown children, I understand better, but I didn't understand until I was a woman with children. that she
Absolutely.
probably did the best she could, and she may have done something that I don't know about. But
Absolutely.
but
I
100%, but I do believe she did the best she could, even not knowing what she did.
and I think that's what it is. Sometimes, it's not about blaming, it's just about not knowing what really happened, and it's also about not understanding. And it doesn't even though whatever they might have done, not have done, it doesn't change that our life got traumatized. I
Mhm.
understand that. And I want to just share a comment here. High Tech Mother says, I know this journey of not loving myself and not getting support from my own mother. So, in some way, and I kind of know High Tech Mother's journey. So, I know that, it is, we all have different reasons, but the trauma doesn't go away, because the question is, what if I got the right support? What if I did not get the right support? Right? I'm going to quickly take a couple of comments here. Veronica from Hong Kong says hello. And I know, Veronica, next week you'll be in Australia, so it'll be fun. I'm waiting for you to land in Australia. This is, I am assuming, Kristen Sparks says, hi, Sebastian. She's the chief executive officer and founder of Momo's HR consulting firm, watching from California. Thank you for tuning in, Kristen. And I am okay, Veronica. You're also on LinkedIn. Um, Patty from US is also watching, and Patty actually, oh, she says, "Love that intro, such a powerful rating." It's kind of, Patty. It's. I don't know if it's powerful. It's just so I can relate to it so much. So, and Veronica says, "I'm extremely sorry to hear your story." Uh, that's where I want to actually say, people feel sorry, and I don't think they need to feel sorry for us, right?
I
And
agree. I finally am not my story. I'm not my history. I'm not the past. I have found love for myself, and I know I'm not what I look like. I'm not what talents I possess. I'm not the size of my thighs. And so I just think it is just what it is. I'm loved that I finally got to that point, and I can love myself genuinely, and that's it happened, but it just happened. It's not even a thing anymore.
I absolutely relate to that. And I think that is so, so crucial, because the way the society raises us, we are constantly comparing ourselves to something, what is called perfection. You
Mhm.
know, there was a time I would not have been on camera the way I am right now, but I'm comfortable with myself. So I understand what you're saying.
Me too, me too.
You
I'm
know,
I'm the
it is
heaviest
not
I've
about
never been.
how we need to look.
Mhm.
It's,
Yeah.
you just really not even at peace. You're just happy with yourself.
I've just I have I think having children really helped me because especially girls where they question themselves, what they're looking like, and I'm just thinking they're precious and beautiful and a miracle and perfect just the way they are, and because of that, I remembered that I am the child that I once was, precious and perfect and a miracle at one time, and I'm no different. I have been through some life circumstances is all. So that really
Absolutely.
helped. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because I think this episode is very special for me, Hera, because I think I am at that realization after, I've been a very direct person all my life, but there, as I was saying in the opening, something happened that changed, other than childhood trauma, something else happened. Uh, so life happens to us, but that doesn't mean we have to stop recognizing who we are inside. And your magazine and podcast, the more I was listening, what I like is, I love the title for one very simple reason. It is about, seeing beneath your beautiful. It is seeing the layer inside. And
Mhm.
as you were even talking right now, I'm just thinking, it's ultimately, it's a person inside that matters.
Absolutely, but for some reason we don't know that, but that's so obvious once you say it, right? It's
Yeah.
not what we look like. How could it be? And also everybody's attracted to something different, so there's no perfect, there's nothing. It's just it's a crime that we waste any time not loving ourselves, and it's really just a goal of mine that people find self-love.
I love that. I'm gonna remember that. It's a crime not loving yourself, wasting any time not loving yourself. Because, Hera, here's the thing. as I was also going through your story and your podcast, one thing that I do realize, listening to everything in my head, we are taught not to love ourselves. It's not
Mhm.
something we are born with. As children, we don't know self love or not. We
Right.
just love being who we are. And then as we grow, life happens, but also everything else that happens around us,
Mhm.
changes how we sort of start behaving. Veronica says, that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing. You are not your history.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's the first thing you said to me during our recording as well. And I love that.
Mhm.
Um, that is Emo. Thank you, Emo, for confirming. And okay, Patty, thank you for clarifying that. I really appreciate that. She's clarifying. I was speaking of the intro with layered video clip of Hera introducing herself. Absolutely. Creating that clip was hard for me, Patty, because there was so much more that we didn't, make it because we had to keep it 2 minutes, but because I relate to it.
Mhm.
So let's go into Hera. The abuse happened. You and I don't remember what really happened, how we were helped, and everything. But then the impact of that is for many, many years in life, we weren't ourselves. We didn't learn to appreciate ourselves. How was that journey like for you? And when did you really recognize that I'm not being fair to myself?
Mhm. Well, my mom died when I was only 18, my first year of college. And so I kind of glommed on to the first guy that really paid attention to me. And I married him, even though we were not suited for each other. And so I had a very difficult first marriage that was 12 years long. And I dated, and he wasn't nice to me about the weight I gained. And so he kept proving to me that I was only worthy based on what I looked like. And then I dated a few men afterwards who broke up with me, said to me, because of your weight, this is a problem. So, so even though I want to say I love me, no matter what I look like, the world kept saying you're only as valuable as your body. And then I just heard my daughter one day talk about her body, and I kind of heard her repeating me talk about, I heard myself for the first time through my daughter's own thoughts, and it saddened me, and I just made it a point to really do some hard work and really change the way I thought about myself, because if I could love her because she's perfect, whether she weighed whatever she weighed, why can't I love myself the same? And I just began being very, very kind to myself. I like to say that when even like I play tennis, and even once on the tennis court, I'm like, when I'm on the tennis court, when I miss a ball, I'm just like, good job, good try. I talked to myself as if I was a little girl, and that really, really changed the way I felt about everything, and it snowballed into a genuine love.
And I think that's what it is. It is just trying to recognize that beautiful inside in
Mhm,
unfiltered, unaffected by the world's social constructs and lessons that we've been
mhm.
fed so much. Once we recognize that, oh no, I'm beautiful, I'm just perfect the way I am, it just changes
Yeah,
everything.
and I really think beautiful is not what I look like. Beautiful is my spirit, it's what I give off, it's the light I shine, it's who I am, not what I look like, and so
I
that's really important.
So I agree with that. Beauty is so mispresented and
Mhm,
misinterpreted. It is a lot more than just what we see. And here's one thing I want to ask, and I'm sorry if this question is difficult. You didn't really get to resolve, what happened when you told your mom, because
mhm,
you were still 18. It's still a child, really. 18
mhm.
is still not a grown up, really. That must have been heartbreaking, not being able to get a final answer. Did you realize at that time when she passed away when you were 18, or what happened?
I went to a nutritionist 5 years ago or something. I'm on it. I need another diet. I need another diet. And she was saying, you've been on so many diets, you know what to do. And then she was listing out the traumas I've been through. And I was like, no, I mentioned that I was sexually assaulted. And I was like, but that's the past. I don't even want to talk about it. That is not, I don't want to be a victim of my past. And she was like, she helped me understand that it was a trauma that I had to talk about. And so I didn't even think about it until I was about 52 and I'm just about to turn 55. I never talked about it. I never thought about it. It just was something that was a thing. And it just, I carried the family shame of this thing that happened. And then once I was allowed to talk about it, I was free. I was no longer ashamed of that my body responded, because the counselor helped me understand that my body's made to respond, that I was exactly perfect in my response because I'm a human. And boy, that lifted a lifetime of shame. I just don't know. And so that release and talking about it was really a beautiful experience. And I'm so glad that the nutritionist sent me to a trauma counselor.
No, I love that, because I think that's what it is. It is realizing, and it's, I always say this, that your body speaks to you. Your body tells you, this is something I've realized so very well in my personal and professional life. My body will tell me if I want to be around somebody or not. It tells me if I want to be involved in a project or in a friendship. And it's just that we are so conditioned to not say no or not walk away, that we know our body is saying you don't feel comfortable here, but we just sit there because it's not polite to walk away, you know. And I think that's what I'm finding beautiful, that you realize that it's I just have to let go of what's hurting me. And but it took a long time.
Well, I didn't
It
even
did
know
take
it
a
was a
long time.
problem. That's why I didn't even
Right,
realize that that was an issue. So it
right.
made me laugh when she was listing it. I was like, no, all that's fine. She's like, well, two of your brothers died. Your parents are dead. You've been through a divorce, all the things. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess those are some things to talk about. It's just
And I think
so
that's what it is.
silly.
We remain
Yeah.
in a denial. We remain in a
Yeah.
denial that, oh, now my life is okay, so there's nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good to talk about it with somebody safe to talk to. So yeah. And so yeah.
Look, I don't know you from years ago, but I can tell you this, as I said in our last conversation as well, you don't look 55. I don't see
Oh,
age.
thanks.
I see a really youthful and happy and, really soulful person who's just okay with themselves and actually able to celebrate who they are. And I think that's the most important thing. Well, we'll quickly take a break and we'll be right back. Then I'll take a couple of comments. So, guys, bear with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Pamela Hartnell, and you're watching Unleash Leaders of Change on Intentional Network. And I'm a mindset and empowerment strategist, and I help people get unstuck. I help them get a change in perception of the things that are getting in the way of them succeeding the way they want to. I think aging people get aging completely wrong. It's not about a number, it's about your mindset. And that really does play an important part of it, because if your mindset is in the right space, you're going to see things differently, do things differently, and approach things differently. So I think it's really, really important to get your mind fit. I have clients that say, oh, well, I'm 50 now. And I go, well, you've got nothing because I'm 60. And there's no excuse. They use these things as an excuse not to do things, not to push themselves, or not to step outside their comfort zone. And it's irrelevant what the number is. Like I said, I'm 60 and I was still doing handstands yesterday and leader jumps, and I'm only 5'2" myself. So I'm not very big. So I'm jumping longer than I am tall and jumping up on boxes. And my aim is to get sort of like chest and chin height, because I can, because I'm keeping my body strong, because my mind is strong. So everyone can do that. They've just got to get themselves out of the way. It's never too late to test yourself and grow your skills, whether they're mental skills, emotional skills, or physical skills, or all of those things. I plan on doing them, like I say, until I can't do them anymore. I want to be challenging myself and pushing myself, and I want you to do the same too, because you can. It's possible. You could start anything, children, and they think that's it now. I can't do anything. I have to wait, and that's not true. And it's just not true. You don't have to do that. You don't have to put everything on hold to be a parent. You can still make it work. You can still go after your dreams too, and not lose sight of everything else around you. You just got to be more organized and get it sorted that way. And I'm passionate about all this, and sometimes I get really serious when I'm talking about this, because I'm 60 and I'm like, so what? I'll do what I want, when I want, how I want, not at the expense of anybody else.
So, guys, that was Pamela Hartnell. She's coming up in a few weeks and sharing her story about aging. But right now, in Spotlight is Hara Allison, and we're talking about self love. And Hara, as we were sharing, just a few moments ago, it is about um, recognizing the beauty within, and that's how I love that your entire branding is that. So I want to get into your life a little bit right now. You are happily married, your kids are growing up and everything, and what I found interesting right now you shared is that your child said something is when you first realized or kind of started realizing, oh wait, there's a problem, I need to fix that because now my child is reflecting that.
Mhm.
Let's first actually talk about that moment when it was your daughter, right?
Yeah, I have two daughters.
Right.
It
So
was the older one.
when she said that, how did it feel? And, what struck you? Did you feel a sense of urgency? Share with me if you can share that moment, please, if you remember.
I feel like I felt panic. How can you not love yourself? You're the coolest person I know. You're so beautiful. You're so well loved. Everybody likes you. Like, what is not to love? And then I realized where she was hearing these messages that you are your body, because I was saying it about myself. Like, how can she not repeat it? That's what I was teaching her, which reminded me of when she was really, really little and she was saying, I don't know if I can say that on here, but she said, "Oh shit." And I was like, "Where's she getting that?" I was like, "Oh, me." So, um, yeah, they do reflect what you know. And so I'm so happy that I can keep showing her what it looks like to love yourself. I'm so happy that it happened. I think we think things happen to us, and I really do think they happen for us. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at this age. I'm not regretful of anything that I've gone through. I had to do every single thing to get to this point, and this point's pretty good. So,
Look, I have a thing or 10 to say about that, but I'm going to keep it this about you. I do realize that. And, when I realized that life changed, um, I do want to sort of highlight that when that moment happened, and the biggest thing is you said right now, we are, I wrote this article like 10 years ago, we are what we repeat. What we
mhm,
tell ourselves over and over and over and again, you know, is what we become, because finally we start believing it, we start living it. And it is,
yeah,
you were talking about recognizing the child, and Patty says talking to ourselves as if we are the young ones we love. And I think that is very crucial, that is very
mhm,
crucial. And in a way your daughter took you back there, making you
mhm.
realize that you I think what's the most important thing here for me is what could have become generational trauma. You broke
Mhm.
that cycle.
Yeah.
You
And
instantly broke that cycle.
not only did I see that I was teaching that to her, but I was able to think, well, I was somebody's daughter once, and that really changed everything, because instead of the little kid mind I had, which was, I'm the burden, I'm always chasing after the older kids and they're rolling their eyes at me. That's kind of the feeling I had left from my childhood. I was, I could say for the first time, little Hara without, like young Hara, without rolling my own eyes. Like, little Hara needs love, and I'm providing that to her, even though I'm this old and it's in my mind. But I'm actually lovingly parenting that little lost girl, and that's working.
Look, that is so important, because I think that is what it is, to be able to nurture the child within is so
Mhm.
crucial to self love and everything else, because that's what we lose over the time. And High Tech Mother says, I'm so glad you took action. I believe she's talking about realizing and doing the right thing for your daughter. And I love Patty says, tenderly and with admiration, the
Mhm.
ultimate self love. It is.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. It is easy to say. It's not easy to achieve.
No, but if you repeat it, just like you're talking about, if you repeat, "I'm ugly, I'm fat, blah, blah, blah," it's just as easy to repeat, "I'm sweet little Hara, you're doing your best," you know, I see people on, I keep bringing it to tennis because I see ladies on the tennis court who get so mad at themselves because they mess up. But if they were talking to a little kid, they'd never be mad at them. Like, good job, good try again next time. Like, I don't know. So it's just we stop being kind, and I'm just very, very kind to me.
I think that is so important. That is so crucial, because I think it's a great tip to, would you say something you're saying to yourself? Would you say something like that to somebody else? If not, then why are you saying it to yourself?
Right. But then if you can picture a little kid, for some reason it makes it easier. Like just any little kid, you wouldn't be mad at them for anything,
Absolutely.
for even the
Absolutely.
cute
And
little
you'll actually
rolls.
make them understand. You'll actually
Right.
say, oh, no, that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. We can make mistakes. Or no, let me explain you. We'll actually take the time
Yeah.
to empower them rather than chide them for saying something. And High
Right.
Tech Mother says, thank you for sharing this, Hera. And I do appreciate you actually coming and sharing this. Now, let's talk about the journey afterwards. You realized, and you started working on self-love, but that's not where you stop. You actually decided to make it a mission to spread the message and empower others as well. Uh, Before we actually go there, I want to show something to people, and tell me if a little bit about this little photo shoot.
Okay.
So tell us what this is, and share the story, please, if you don't mind.
Sure. That's one of the almost 30 women I photographed, called See Me series. And my daughter had an idea for me to paint the words on her that described, this is the same daughter who has been questioning herself, and she's growing in self-love. So she wanted to do a photo shoot like this, where I painted the words on her that described who she was, not what she looked like or what people thought of her. And so then I opened it up to women, and it was a free photo shoot. It took a very long time because the women chose their words. It was very emotional. And then I hand painted them on them, and then we did the photo shoot, and they got to choose which one they liked the best. So it was a beautiful experience for them. And because people kept talking to me so intimately and sharing their private struggles and what got them to these words, that sort of inspired the podcast, where because all of these conversations were secrets, I guess, not secrets, but they were private. And so I was a little bit burdened with all this knowledge. And so I was like, I need to do a podcast where people will share their stories and we can share the stories with the world. So that's how the podcast was inspired, through those photo shoots, the very intimate conversations.
Beautiful. Do you mind sharing the name of the podcast? Of course, I know, but
Sure.
I want to,
Yeah,
if you can
sure,
share,
sure.
and if you can share a little journey as well. How did you finally set it up and started sort of reaching out to people to find their stories?
Oh, okay. Well, it's called See Beneath Your Beautiful, which is from a Labyrinth song, Beneath Your Beautiful, where he talks about tearing down your walls and seeing inside, see beneath your perfect. And I just really love that song so much, because that's what I care about. I like just knowing somebody on a real deep level. And so first it was just my friends and anybody I could think of, and asking on Facebook, does anybody know anybody? And of course, now I know that there are services where you can find people that exactly match your mission. And so this Saturday aired the 80th episode. And so the 80th week in a row, I haven't missed a week. And yeah, pretty good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just a really beautiful experience. I take very great care in editing each episode, and I don't know, I just really love it. I love sharing people's stories.
I love that. At this point, I have a question for the audience itself. So, guys, what would you change in your life right now? Whether it's self-love, whether it's any struggle, if whatever whoever is watching, or if you watch the replay, share with us, what would you change if you can. So that's the question I ask you, Hera, as well. When you realized and when you started looking at the life in a different way, and especially sort of awoken by your daughter, uh, what was the decision you made that, okay, this is what's going to change, and how did you go about um, finding the courage to, I guess, revisiting the original Hera that was lost?
Hmm. I think it was just a real desire so that my daughter wouldn't suffer. It wasn't a hard decision once I realized what I was doing. by not loving myself. So it was easy.
Absolutely. Now, podcast is not the only thing. You're actually also doing other things as well. And let's actually talk about, we showed the pictures, but that's another thing that I want people to know, that you're also a photographer. So
Mhm.
when did that journey start, the photography?
So for 30 years, I've been a graphic designer and I've owned my own company and, been making a living at it. And a few years ago, I went to a conference and they were talking about dreamers. And at the beginning of the weekend, I was like, well, I have to earn a living. But by the end of the weekend, they were talking. I mean, I believed that I was a dreamer also. And what I knew, the only dream I had was that I know self love and I wish other people knew it. But I didn't know how I would share that with the world. And then I went to another conference and this woman I was sitting next to kept complaining about what she looked like. And all I saw was her beauty. And by the end of the weekend, I asked her if I could take her photo. And that rekindled my relationship and my love of photography. In high school, I had a darkroom. I won photography awards, but I had let it slide. And so that was really great because I rekindled my relationship. And I'm more well known as a photographer than a graphic designer, even though that's only been about 3 years and my graphic design's been 30. But it's because it's where my passion is and my love is.
I think that's part of self-love. You
Mm-hmm.
realize and focus on the passion. You focus on what really makes you happy, and
Mm-hmm.
design is still very much part of it. So absolutely. Oh, whoops! Sorry, I was just looking at a comment and it just vanished. Oh, I'm not sure who this is, and please do share your name when you see this. I would change the relationship with my extended family. I would wish they were closer and valued our relationships. That's a great point. And Hera, do you think, let's talk about you and me here, realizing the trauma and everything else. Do you think your relationship suffered as growing up with your own parents and family? I know that they were gone very soon, but did you think that suffered growing up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think now that I'm responsible for all of my relationships, but I didn't know that growing up. I'm responsible for the amount of attention they receive, for the feedback I get. I really think that. So even though I'm not very close with all of my siblings, I know I could change that. And it's not their fault. I think that's true about every relationship I'm in. So my daughter just called me today talking about something about, oh, I hope they don't hear this, but about her husband. And I was like, oh, I said, I don't want to give you any advice. She goes, but I'm calling you for advice. And I said, you just have to change the way you think about it. And she was like, I needed to hear that. So that was great because the truth is, it's how the person is the person. You can't change the person, but you can not have this picture of what you want them to do or what you expect them to do. You can just love them where they are because that's what you want for yourself. You want to be loved for who you are.
I think that is the biggest struggle about self-love, isn't it? We try to change others. We try to, I read that actually somewhere today itself, that you're trying to make others you. They are not you.
I
You know,
really think that's
expecting,
true.
expecting others to be you is never going to happen. And I think that is part of self-love. As you
Yeah.
realize, you actually stop expectations. You
Well, I
stop.
think it radiates is the thing. I love me, which means I love my husband just the way he is, even though he doesn't do things exactly the way I would do it. So that's what makes a really good relationship because I'm
That's
just,
something every wife will say, though.
I don't think
Right?
so. She was saying that she wished he had done this and done that. My daughter was saying that. I was like, but that's not him. You're wishing he was somebody else. Like you
Right.
want him to do what you would have done, but that's not who he is. And if you want a happy relationship, maybe you should you chose him. So, appreciate his qualities and what he's bringing.
I
Hopefully.
love that. And I think that's
Hmm.
what it is. That is so much part of self love, because I think it is about being comfortable with yourself.
Hmm.
And once you start loving yourself, you don't have time to find out flaws in others. You just learn to love them as well. It is kind of like, it's the same principle. Take care of yourself first, then you can take care of others.
Yeah.
Self-care. Same goes with the self-love. So I
Yeah.
think that's really what it is. Hi
I,
Chick Mother, he says, you're so talented and using all the creativity in such a great manner. I agree,
thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. I
And
say the more I love me, the more I love you. The
Oh
more
my God,
I have
I love that.
capacity I have to love you. You know, the
I
less
love that.
judgmental I am of myself. I'm not judging you because I'm so kind to me. Why would I not be this as kind to you? So it is
Because
about, it does radiate.
absolutely, it is. We are, our reactions are kind of the mirror of who we are, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
We expectations or upset or anything, it happens because that's what we're expecting from ourselves and we're not doing it.
mm-hmm.
Emo says that is so true. The person is the person and we cannot change that. Yes, Emo, I remember that now. I think because your profile is not public, that's why it doesn't show name.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk about uh, your podcast a little bit. In the podcast, first of all, again, congratulations, 80 episodes. I'm
Thank you.
jealous. I need to get there. I'm going to compete. But in this process, you must have learned a lot of things. You must have, because from my experience, no matter how much you know, these podcasts, interviews, blogs, they teach you even more than what you thought you knew, but you don't.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What's your favorite? I know it's a hard question, but what's your favorite episode of the 80s so far you can remember? Uh, yeah.
I do have a favorite episode. I interviewed 12 women who have lost their mothers, and I put little 7-minute clips, which was terrible because I had interviewed them each for an hour. But I broke it up to about 7 to 10 minutes each. And it's just such a beautiful episode because it doesn't matter whether you've lost your mother at birth or at 80, when you're 80, there's a real loss that happens even if you didn't have a good relationship with your mother. And so I just really love the mother-daughter complexity and the relationships. Even with my own daughters, it's complex. Even though I think I'm awesome, they don't necessarily always think so.
I think
So
that's all human relationships. So, and I think
yeah,
we need those complexities because if everything was so simple,
right.
we will not,
Yeah.
we will not
No, and
actually appreciate.
I love that. I love that the
Yeah.
world is dynamic and confusing and a little bit, keeps you on your toes, and it'd be boring if it wasn't. I just love having my daughters because my daughters really help me understand my mother because I don't get to in real life. So I'm more and more and more and more and more generous towards her as I age and, have children who expect things of me when I'm just a girl who had a kid.
I love that. Absolutely. Blue Roads Education says, the more I love me, the more I love you. That's your quote. Beautiful. I will coach you with credit, of course. Love that. Thank you so much, Blue Roads Education. And, that takes me to now that podcast is actually expanding to something else. That same brand is becoming more. So tell us a little bit about the journey of Beneath Your Beautiful. First of all, why did you name it so?
Labyrinth has a song called Beneath Your Beautiful, and the lyrics are, I want to, tear down your walls and see inside. I want to tear down your perfect and get to know you. So that's just song always kind of breaks my heart in a good way. I just love the true story of somebody. I really, really like deep relationships, even though
No, I
there's a
love
lot
that
of
because
superficial ones.
we are so focused on being perfect that we actually have the perfection within us and we don't celebrate that. So absolutely love that. And now you're actually launching the magazine as well. Let me actually, as you share, I'm going to put up a few photos you have sent. So if you don't mind sharing the journey
Sure.
of podcast to magazine to everything else.
Sure. So I'm starting a magazine, which is a companion to the podcast, and it's in the same vein as the podcast, where I talk to people. In the podcast, I talk to people who have gone through traumatic experiences but aren't living in the trauma, that they're not victims. And so the magazine is everything emotional. It's little kids and people living on the street, and it's just the beauty of real life. And so it's important to me to just show that everything is beautiful, that I think all of life is beautiful. I think everybody's beautiful, and I'm just trying to show that through the podcast and the magazine.
I love that. Now, this must have been a lot of work. And did you always know that you were going to launch a magazine, or when did the idea came about?
Well, I had the idea for the podcast, and 8 days later, I had a podcast. And so that's the kind of way I go. And I thought of the magazine. So one of those photos was to show you that I've been personally published in many magazines,
Right.
over 20. And so I realized, well, they're creating magazines, and I'm a great designer, and it's always been my dream to have a magazine. And so I think it was less than 2 months ago that I decided to have a magazine. And the first issue has 30 contributors. So people believed in my mission without me having anything to prove to them, which was it feels really good. It goes, it'll be free online via issue on Monday. So I'm so excited. And then I'm already working on the second issue. It's very exciting. It's a dream come true.
Oh, so it's coming this just next Monday?
Monday, yeah, October 3rd will be the first issue.
Oh my God, that's big. That's big.
Mhm.
Congratulations. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to, please make sure to share the information with us.
I
We're
will.
going to put
Thank
it on
you.
our media page so people can go and look as well.
Thank you.
So let me remove this. Sorry, trying to get you on screen. Technology can be a little bit challenging sometimes. Now that journey has shifted from not even recognizing that you're not loving yourself to loving yourself, and now you're creating that message and spreading out there. What's your mission, as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a publisher and a photographer? How do you want to use your message to empower others?
I think it's the same as I do with every photo shoot. I feel like is a play session. And I feel like that's what life is about. And I'm just taking it all not too seriously. And I feel like that makes it so I can't fail in anything I do. I'm just trying to love life, live it out loud, and not waste a minute.
I love that. All right. So we'll take a quick break, and then I have some fun questions to ask you. So bear with me as we go on. Well, I won't say quick, a 2-minute break. So we'll be right back, guys.
Because I actually wanted to become a teacher at some point when I was a teenager. But then I was thinking, because I was still in Romania back then, we moved to Canada in 2017 together with my family. So I was still there, and I was thinking, look, if I become a teacher, I'm going to starve because, teachers are not very well paid. We all know that. So I wanted to become a lawyer after that. And then my mom said, oh, you can't become a lawyer because you're going to talk to criminals all day. And I don't want this for you. So it's funny. It's funny then because I ended up working in an international law firm and actually being sort of the in-house teacher because I was a trainer. Working with millennial leaders across the globe and helping them become dream bosses, build dream teams, and really lead different. I've been doing this in my business for the past 4 years now. Absolutely. And I believe that, you have all of these assessment tools that tell you you're one thing or another, and we use them as labels and as excuses a lot, rather than using them as helping us understand more about how we work and what makes us powerful and what makes us motivated and engaged. This is what they're there for. And we've been using them wrong. And this is what I find with a lot of people. We hide behind these sorts of labels. So if I could change the world, I would build personal development skills gyms, just like your normal gym. Like people would go there to train their personal skills. That's what I would do. I am Roxana Radulescu, and you are watching Dream Maniac TV.
You know what to do. And once again, guys, we're back with Unleashed Leaders of Change, Season 6, Episode 6, and I'm with Hara Allison. We're talking about power of self-love, and Hara is one of those people who doesn't only, reclaim their own power, but also make sure that they can empower others as well. I am loving this interview, and I'm hoping you too. If you're watching the replay, make sure to subscribe, comment, and like. We'd love to have your support. Hera, talking about magazine, I just saw a question. I want to put that up. Before that, Emo says, congratulations, Hera, and thank you for sharing your story of self-love with us.
Thank you.
And then High Tech Mother is asking, can you tell us a bit more about what will be in the magazine and where can I find it?
Yes. So it's fine art, photographs, and select writings that are emotional. And it can be any emotion, it can be happy and sad. So I say everything from heartbreaking to heart-wrenching. It can be found at beneathyourbeautifulmag.com, and it'll be free online, and there'll be a link if you'd like to purchase a printed version. And the first issue is 112 pages, and like I said, I had 30 contributors. It's really just been just a really exciting thing to watch evolve.
That's a lot of work, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you must have taken a lot of. Did you have a lot of sleepless nights?
I just when it's something like your passion, like for instance, every photograph I go to, I just love it. So it's not really work, although it is work.
Right.
Yeah. So like even today, actually, in an hour-ish, I have to do a photograph. I volunteer for an organization called Sillumination, and through them, I have photographed parents with a stillborn and photographed their baby, and then another family that was taking their 2-week-old off life support. And today I am photographing a senior student, a 17-year-old who has life-threatening leukemia. But through these hard things, I can do hard things. Through these, though, it really does make me appreciate the beauty of life and even the suffering. I think heartbreak itself is beautiful. I just think all of the emotions, I think we have to embrace everything that the world offers us, and not shy away.
So that actually makes me curious. What made you choose these themes? And sort of, it is dark, it is difficult. What inspired you to actually use your photography for even capturing these messages, which
Mhm.
usually people avoid, especially when it comes to,
Yeah.
photographing these moments?
Yes. There was a call out asking for volunteers, and I said I'm involuntarily volunteering. I can't believe I'm saying yes to this. But I have these kind of conversations on my podcast, and I thought I had to walk the walk. I just can't just keep talking about it and not doing it. And I really hope that we can talk about death, sex, and money easier, that it shouldn't be taboo. And, I'm going to die one day, and I don't want somebody to be scared of my body. I don't want to be scared of death myself. And so, I'm just trying to embrace all that life has to offer, which includes death, and for everybody. So I'm really trying not to be scared of all the beauty in the world.
Right now, if my dad was here, he would have loved you because that's one thing he taught us always. We used to say, how people react when you talk about when I die, when I die. Don't
Yeah.
say that, don't speak
Right.
like that. But he used to say, well, that's the ultimate truth. What are you running away from? And the sooner you accept it, the happier life gets because then you're living, with a clear purpose.
I
So
really
I,
think
I
that's
love
true.
that.
Hmm.
It is. I like that. You literally took me back to that conversation years ago. So, well, to switch things to a little bit lighter mode, I do have a couple of rapid questions for you. So, if you're ready.
I don't know, but let's see.
Okay. So, the first question is, what mistake have you made in your life that you want others to be aware of and not make, not repeat?
Oh, I guess the first thing that came to my mind was just apologizing for who you are. I would always say, well, I love me, but I'm fat. I mean, like, I know I'm fat. Like, I'm going to tell you before you tell me. So I just think stop not apologizing for yourself. Like, I am who I am, and I wish I hadn't apologized to all those people that I apologized to.
That actually kind of make me think of something. How sometimes, and I was thinking about this earlier today, when somebody compliments us, but because there's self-doubt sitting right here, which is ready to not accept the compliment.
Mhm.
Somebody just said today, like, when somebody compliments, don't say you're too kind. Just say thank you. That's
Right.
enough. You don't need to tell them that they're doing extra. They're exactly saying what they think of you, and
Yes.
don't diminish that. You know?
Yeah, it took a long time to learn to say thank you.
Yeah.
Just thank you, end of sentence, period,
That's
let it
it.
go.
That's
Right.
it. Thank you, and be appreciative of the compliment
Exactly.
rather than
Assume
coming
there's a
back with
motive.
something like, "Oh, but I'm not worthy of it. Thank you, but I'm
Right.
not worthy of it."
Right.
So,
That's it. Yeah.
I think
Thank
I'm
you.
going to remember this interview for a long time. I'm going to
Oh,
go and
thanks.
watch several times. Okay, so if you could collaborate with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? Why, and what is it that you'll collaborate on?
I would honestly, the person I would most like to know and get some information from is my mother. She was a fine artist who couldn't paint because she was waiting till she retired because she had 6 kids so quickly. She really did suffer a lot in her life, but she was so glamorous and beautiful and talented. I would just love to know her as a woman. So I
That is
did have an art show. I did start painting. Like I wasn't very good at it, but that's a fact, not a cut down. But I did it at a gallery, and they let me do a mother-daughter show, and so I had my mother's art up as well as mine, and that was really a beautiful collaboration, even though she had been gone for so many years. And so I have this fascination with her. I'd love to meet her as a
Oh,
woman.
look, that is very lovely, and I think it kind of takes me back to that. Now that you have found self-love, you recognize that she struggled with that as well, because that's one thing that happens when we don't love ourselves. We put everything on hold.
Mhm.
I'm not going to call it excuse, but this is what we do. I have to
Yeah.
look after children first. I have to look
Yeah.
after my husband or wife first. I have to, get a house first and this first, and we put our passions away. We don't kind of live our true life in. I think that's a sign of not loving ourselves enough. So thank you for actually sharing that, because yeah, that makes me think, like, that's part of recognizing that we have to learn to put ourselves first as well.
I think so too. Even with children, I say, I love me first so that I can love them. I take care of me. Somebody said, what do you do for self care? I'm like, everything I do is self care. I'm like, I'm very generous. My
Yeah.
sheets are the most magnificent sheets. Life is short and I'm not going to waste it on uncomfortable sheets.
Yeah, and I think what you're doing is, and you shared this earlier, in this process, you're setting a good example for your own children as well, to let them love themselves, let them know that it's absolutely okay to put yourself first. And I think
Mhm.
that's such an important message, really. Now, I do
Mhm.
have another question, one of these rapid questions, but I want to ask something else because it's kind of been on my mind. Now your married life, you are happily married, you have a husband who you'd like some things to change, which is, I'm just kidding, but um so this relationship, what is different from the previous relationship, and how has that helped in your journey for self-love as well?
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, I think just loving myself first and letting him love me rather than expecting him to love. As I think my first husband, I needed him to love me so I could love me, and that's not true now. I loved me before I met my second husband, and then the love was able to just come in, and it's not needy at all. It's so genuine and goes both ways so easily. It's just so I can't believe I get this love. My mother died at 46, and irrationally, I thought I was going to live till 46 because her mother died at 46, ironically. So, in my head, even though it was irrational, I just thought I have till 46. And I met my husband right before right before I turned 46, and my life kind of started then rather than ended. It's been a beautiful 8 years so far, and I just can't believe I'm so happy I get to feel this kind of really mutual, grown up, mature love.
There's so much common in our story. I think I need to have like 10 episodes with you because there's so much. Every time you share something, I just go, my God, that's just my life. That's my story. I want to talk about that. So,
Mhm.
one day I might have to just do a long sort of session with
We'll
you.
do it. Yeah.
Um, it is beautiful. I do like that because the biggest thing is being able to love yourself. And uh, when you do that, the other person sees that energy as well. And it's easier for them to fall in love with you. And I think the communication, the conversation all goes really well.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of in a good way jealous of that. So I hope
I
I
have
find somebody like that.
I understand. I would have been too. I was single for 13 years and I'd been in a 12-year unhappy marriage. So for most of my life, I was not happy and dated many people and didn't think it was out there for me. So I understand feeling jealous of it, but I feel really lucky also. So I
That's
understand now.
jealousy with an ambition. So I'm excited to sort of look at that. And I have to say, your husband added me as well, and I saw
Mhm.
you guys are just beautiful.
Oh,
And
thanks.
inside out, no questions. Beautiful people. Just watching a little bit of timeline just says a lot about people. The biggest thing I find is, and given that you're a photographer, the biggest thing that I found in your journey is you actually have the tools to be fake, using photography. But you guys are the most genuine people I've seen
Oh, that's
recently
sweet.
on social
Thanks.
media, and that's refreshing. That's really beautiful.
Oh, that's good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're welcome. So here is the little uh, last silly question. If you have $2 billion right now, but you could not spend it on yourself or your loved ones, and you had only 1 hour to spend it, what would you do?
Oh, shoot. I was going to travel. Let me think now.
You can't do it on
I
yourself.
can't travel. Not my loved ones either. Okay. I just feel so, I have been so narrow minded in taking care of my children, and I can only focus on what I can focus on and not worrying about the world's problems. So I don't even know. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind now that I'm saying it out loud is hospice helped both of my parents. And I think an organization like hospice that helps people who are dying and are so generous of heart. So I would so hospice for sure. That's my charity of choice, because I can't believe there are people out there that do that kind of stuff. And now I'm a photographer that does that kind of stuff. So I can see it, but I just really appreciate people who aren't scared of death.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Well, in closing, the only thing I'll ask you is what's the message you have for people?
Well, don't waste a minute. That's what I think is, don't waste a minute not loving yourself, because you weren't put on this earth to be like, oh, well, I'd be great if I was 10 pounds skinnier, or if this or if that. You're exactly the way you are at this moment, and loving yourself frees others to love you.
I love that. Thank you, Hera. Where can people contact you, and what's the best way to get in touch with you and check out your magazine, check out your podcast? How can they get in touch with you?
BeneathYourBeautifulMag.com or SeeBeneathYourBeautiful.com is the podcast, and I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, if they ever get me back up there, and Facebook, and anywhere. Just type in Beneath Your Beautiful Magazine. I think you'll find me.
Awesome. And guys, you'll be able to find all that information on her media page on Intentional website. So go and check it out. You'll see the website, you'll see her direct websites, all the social media, and everything else. So check that out. Thank you so much, Hera. This was really, really
Thank you.
beautiful. And I think we need to have more conversations soon.
Be happy to. Thank you.
All right. I'll be with you in a moment. Please stay in the green room. So, guys, that was Hera Allison, and we talked about power of love. This is Unleashed Leaders of Change, Season 6, Episode 6. I think it's been an hour, but I feel like I have not even covered 10% of what I wanted to actually talk about, the things I wanted to go into. There's so much commonality in the story, but I don't think it's just me and Hera. It's a lot of us people. Something, Hera said in the beginning, a lot of us do live, these complicated, complex lives, and we all have a story, but it's about sharing that story, and it's about allowing yourself to love yourself, to respect yourself, to put yourself first, because unless you take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anybody else? Anything else you're doing is fake. You're just forcing yourself. And I'm kind of getting emotional, but this episode is something I'm going to go back and watch several times. And I really wish I could go, take this for another 6 hours, because there's so much I have to say about everything that Hara shared. So my goal will be to bring her back on other shows so we can talk more. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Until next, remember, I'm here because I care and because I give a damn. Take care, dream big, and make it happen.
You've got to be intentional about your dreams. Then only you can explore your true creativity.
For me, living intentionally means living with purpose and making sure that the story I create is the story I want to tell my daughters when they grow up.
You know what to do.